Today, we're diving into one of the most talked about and honestly most complicated fortunes in the entire world, the wealth of Donald Trump. It's this amazing story of giant skyscrapers, reality TV stardom, and a stock that has been on an absolutely wild ride. So how on earth do you put a single number on a fortune like that? Well, let's try and find out. So right off the bat, the big question is, what's the actual number? But here's the thing. The answer is kind of like a financial mirage. It really depends on who you ask, what you're valuing, and even what day it is. The number can swing by billions. Seriously, it's not a number that's set in stone. It's more like a moving target that's always shifting with the market and, public opinion. I mean, just look at the numbers here. It's wild. You've got credible sources like Bloomberg and Forbes putting his worth somewhere between $6.5 and $7 billion. But then you go back to 2015 and Trump himself said it was over $10 billion. And then there's this crypto venture where one estimate temporarily shot up to a staggering $58 billion. These aren't just small disagreements, you guys. We're talking about massive billion-dollar gaps that really get to the heart of what his wealth is all about. Okay, so to really understand the fortune, you have to start at the foundation. And for Trump, that foundation is literally built on steel, glass, and concrete, his real estate empire. You've probably heard the origin story, right? The famous small loan of $1 million from his father, Fred. But, well, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. Turns out Trump himself later admitted to borrowing something closer to $9.6 million from his dad's estate. And a huge investigation by the New York Times found this complex web of hundreds of different revenue streams that his father set up to funnel wealth his way. And right here, you can see the tangible results of all that early support. These are the crown jewels, the big-ticket items in his real estate empire. You've got the iconic Mar-a-Lago, the glittering Trump Tower in Manhattan, a $500 million stake in a huge office building, and the massive Doral Golf Resort in Miami, worth about $300 million. These are the classic, high-value assets that really form the bedrock of his fortune. But Trump's wealth isn't just about buildings. A huge and, frankly, a much harder part of the equation to nail down is the value of the Trump brand itself. It's this intangible asset he's been building for decades. And nothing supercharged that brand quite like television. I mean, The Apprentice was a phenomenon. Between 2004 and 2018, the show and all its related licensing deals were an absolute goldmine, bringing in nearly $500 million. This didn't just line his pockets, it made his name a global household brand. And that brand name has been slapped on just about everything you can possibly imagine. We're talking a $7.2 million deal for Trump NFTs, co-branded Bibles, golden sneakers, books. But it doesn't stop there. The Trump brand has also been on steaks, and yes, at one point, even on urine tests. It's a merchandising empire that's as wide-ranging as it is, well, unpredictable. And Trump himself totally sees the brand as the core of his success and his wealth. He put it pretty bluntly in a 2023 testimony. He said, "I became president because of the brand. I think it's the hottest brand in the world." So that leaves us with the billion-dollar question, right? How do you actually put a price tag on fame? Okay, but the most traumatic and by far the most volatile piece of his wealth today is something much, much newer. His huge stake in Trump Media, which you'll see on the stock market as DJT. So when the company went public in March of 2024, the market went nuts. His stake just skyrocketed. On paper, for a moment there, it was worth a jaw-dropping $5.2 billion. In one single move, this one asset more than doubled his estimated net worth, pretty much overnight. But, as we all know, in the world of high-stakes finance, what goes up can come down just as fast. Only 6 months later, that very same stake had crashed down to a low of $1.4 billion. That's a nearly $4 billion swing. It's just a powerful and probably painful lesson in how incredibly volatile this piece of his fortune really is. So what in the world is behind these insane swings? Well, a lot of analysts have started calling DJT a meme stock. So what's that? It's basically a company whose value is driven less by old-school stuff like revenue or profit and way more by social media buzz and the passionate support of its investors. In fact, some finance professors have flat out called the stock incredibly overvalued, which helps explain its thrilling but also pretty treacherous roller coaster ride. Of course, wealth isn't just about what you own. To get the whole picture, you absolutely have to look at the other side of the ledger, the liabilities. And that means debts and some pretty significant legal judgments.
Yeah, according to reporting from Forbes, Trump's empire is built on a whole lot of debt. We're talking at least $640 million owed to banks and trusts, plus another $450 million to other creditors. So that's a known total of over $1 billion in loans and mortgages against his major properties. That is a massive liability you have to factor into any real net worth calculation.
And then you've got the legal battles. In February 2024, he got hit with this staggering judgment, over $450 million in the New York civil fraud case. But then, in a pretty huge twist, an appeals court actually voided that monetary penalty in August 2025, saying it was excessive. It's just a powerful reminder of how a nine-figure liability can pop up on the balance sheet and then, just as quickly, get wiped away. So, this is it. This is the balancing act that's at the very heart of Trump's wealth. On one side, you've got the solid real estate, the super volatile DJT stock, and that powerful but hard to pin down brand. And on the other side, you've got over $1 billion in loans, the constant threat of legal penalties, and other debts. It really is a high-wire act with billions of dollars on the line. So, what's the big takeaway here? The most crucial point is this. Trump's net worth isn't one single stable number you can just look up. It's a dynamic, constantly shifting figure. It's always being pushed and pulled by the property markets, the hype of the stock market, the fickle nature of a brand, and the unpredictable outcomes of his legal fights. Maybe the best summary of all of this comes from the man himself. Back in a 2007 deposition, he said his net worth fluctuates with markets and with attitudes and with feelings, even my own feelings. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought. When you're dealing with a fortune like this, where does the accounting end and where does belief begin? That might be the real billion-dollar question.